Hi friends, host Eric here, host talking with famous people. Me and Rachel are in line at McDonald's, and we were just discussing a little. We were starting to discuss, and I said, you know what? Let's just film it. Maybe we will use this video, maybe we won't. But so I finally got around after last night's live stream and him coming in and chatting and blah 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 blah. I finally got around to actually watching some of Club ENTP's videos. I've been assuming he must be an ENTP this whole time. His channel certainly looks like an ENTP's channel. It's called Club ENTP, and he's over a year old, and he's got a lot of time and energy put into it and stuff. And I fully expected to see an ENTP's channel when we looked at it this morning. And I mean, I don't think he's an ENTP, and
I don't think he's an ENTP either. Not just because like Eric says so, but because what I know of, he just doesn't seem like an ENTP.
And what prompted me making this video, or starting this second video here, was not just us starting to talk about it, but realizing, well, what made me want to start talking about it was completing the video I just finished, which was about people mistaking the particularist and the universalist, and that's where a lot of like the universe's conflict and problems stem from. Anyway, it was what you'd call, and it was sort of relating to you what I already knew and had thought about some, but sort of reframing something that I'd already explained in some other ways. And it's a few different things, but what it's not is like anything that I saw on that guy's channel. So what I saw on ENTP Club's channel is the same kind of describing of the type rather than behaving like or acting like the type that I typically see in people who mistype themselves. So I watched a bit of one of his live streams, and it was really effy tool, you know, like there wasn't well, it's like if you watch one of my live streams before anybody shows up, and it's just me yammering. Sometimes there's a big delay between people showing up. Maybe notifications are slow to go out or whatever. Maybe sometimes there's 5-10 minutes before really anybody shows up. It used to be when I first started that I'd often have to go for quite some while without anybody being there, you know. And the thing is, even if it's a long period of time before anybody shows up, that's okay, because the reason I've started the live stream primarily is because I'm bursting with words I need to say about stuff, which is the reason I started both of these videos here. You know, it's like there's a need to get out a bunch of ideas before I'm even ready to really be redirected, or in theory want to be redirected towards those other things, although I will end up getting redirected against my will, sort of, regardless. But the point is, when I see him live streaming, I saw somebody who was ready to interface, not somebody who was ideating. And of course, the thing is, I feel much more certain that he's not an ENTP than I can prove it or justify in this video. And the purpose of this video really isn't to prove or justify that or come to a conclusion about it, so much as it is that I feel quite concluded about it, so much as it is to talk about how am I going to deal with this shit. You know, like, this is the responsibility part. Like, this totally caught me off guard, right? He asked me to type please, and I anticipated this was a... Yeah. This was a formality of sorts. And that it was going to be a foregone conclusion. But what happens if you actually go and check out his shit and you determine and you discover you're not an ENTP? We've got a lot invested into that, right? Thanks. Are there straws in here? Yeah, there are. Alright, thank you. And I like the guy. Like, he invited me up to his pad. I was planning on heading up there, but then this tax shit happened and money got tight, and then I put it out of my mind and thought maybe later or whatever. He's around the channel a lot. I've been operating under the basic assumption that he is an ENTP this whole time, so it's not like I've ever challenged him on it or anything. What made me want to go check him out, really, was that I learned he was 52 years old. And I said, oh, cool. I actually never encountered another old ENTP like me who wasn't fucked up, you know? But what's the takeaway was that guy's not an ENTP. He's an ISFJ, so how do I approach that? Do I make a regular type lease video? It would have to include a bunch of this meowing, probably. What are your thoughts, Rachel?
I'm trying to decide if doing a type please is the right way of telling him that he's not an ENTP.
Yeah, and I thought also about possibly, like, emailing him first, but...
That does smell like my fragrance oil.
There was a time where, like, for most of a week, I kept waking up in the middle of the night thinking the neighbor girl was baking cinnamon buns. It was just her smell stuff in cast. Anyway. So, I mean, on an FE level, or an FI level, somebody might well say, hey, couldn't you at least give me a heads up first or something like that? Well, frankly, I don't know how that would help, giving anybody a heads up about it, really. And all it does is invite some kind of response of pushback that I don't want to deal with before I make my conclusions public.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, he reminds me of my friend Dave Porter. I think he's an ISFJ. He reminds me of this other lawyer guy that I typed one time. The lawyer thought that he and his daughter, I think his daughter set this thing up, actually. That the wife, the husband, and the daughter. The daughter was actually an ENTP. The husband was a lawyer who thought he was an ENTP, but was actually an ISFJ. And by the end, it was a nice session because after watching how dramatically differently he and his daughter scored on actual extroverted intuition tests, it was hard to deny that they were different types and that, in fact, he was not an ENTP. Now, the thing is, with this particular guy, I certainly am willing to give him the tests. Here's the thing. Like, I also offered to give Melissa Talks the tests, and she freaked out, right? Because, of course, given the opportunity to prove her innocence, so to speak, she doesn't want to take that opportunity because it also will establish if she's guilty. And she knows deep down that she's guilty, right? Now, I would expect an ISFJ to handle it differently than she did. But I don't know what type Club ENTP is. I just know, and again, I know this, but I'm not making this as a claim I can defend or whatever. I don't want to get into that argument. But I will say that for my purposes, I know that he's not an ENTP.
And I don't think he's an ENTP either.
But I could be proved wrong if he were to take the NE tests, TI tests, and respond to them or demonstrate in the same way that real ENTPs do. We've got examples of it, like with me, Aga, the other girl just recently did, and then there's some others, like that girl that I'm talking about from the family. I didn't get to publish that, so she was like 17 or something, and people are protective of their daughter's public, access to their daughter's public social media kind of stuff. So I understand that. That was totally fine. That was from the dad, didn't want to publish, not the daughter. Anyway, the point is, so I don't have access to look to show that, and there aren't very many real ENTPs. For every real ENTP, there's a bunch of not ENTPs. I would also point out this, though, that I was skeptical immediately, right away, and I lost that skepticism soon thereafter because things seemed to check out visually or whatever, but I was skeptical right away about the idea that any ENTP would want to start a club of ENTPs. ENTPs do not want to have a club of ENTPs. ENTPs want to be the only ENTP. I'd say, well, maybe that's what's influencing your decision making here. It's not at all. I totally wanted and expected that guy to be an ENTP. He just isn't.
No, I agree. I just have the intuition. I can't really explain what it is, but I know that he doesn't act like you.
Barring function test to prove the contrary, that guy's not an ENTP. Try as you might, you just can't hide, 'cause you're mistyped, and I've been waiting to pull you over all night. Type police, please pull that guy over. He says he's INTP, but seems extroverted, sensing to me. I think he's ESFP. Type police.